What's good, y'all? Welcome back to Said Speaks. And today I'm speaking to my dog, Alex. Just me and Alex today. And I told him that I want to speak about this with him today. Not really giving him too much of a heads up of what I wrote about, but I wanted to discuss it with him on here because me and Alex always have really good conversations while we're working and stuff. And I thought this would be uh, just a good topic to talk about. So I write every morning when I get up. Well, not every morning. Most mornings I get up and I write. And I started with doing this exercise called morning pages. And essentially you get up every morning and you write for 15 minutes about the first thing that's on your mind. And it's supposed to be an exercise for creative people. So I was like, okay, I'm gonna try this. And what I realized was that I would get up and write and try to force myself to talk about something that sparked my creative imagination. And I realized quickly, like, okay, like I don't really wake up having creative thoughts. I wake up having like thoughts on things that I'm trying to like get better at as a person.
Mhm.
So for the first couple of days, I have it right here. I would write about like things for work and stuff like that. And then what I noticed was that like I will write and I will always have like a song stuck in my head, and that was quite annoying when I first started writing, and I had to like figure out why that was happening, and I realized it was because I was consuming music all the time when my brain was supposed to just be relaxing. Like for example, like lifting weights, it's like I would just listen to music, and it's like, now this is really a good time for my brain to just do its thing. And I stopped listening to music and listening to podcasts when I worked out. Then I realized that I became a better writer because when my mind was supposed to actually think out my thoughts and articulate my thoughts, um, I was giving my brain the time to work on that. And one morning I woke up and I was having a hard time with my family. Like there was a lot going on. Like our house was messy. My kids were like just done being sick or something. Me and my wife, who's tiptoeing around the kitchen right now, all in the shot. If you're on YouTube watching it, you can see it. We were having a hard time, and I woke up in a funk, and I was like, man, I'm just going to write this out to see if I can figure out what's wrong with me. So that way I'm not walking around the house like mad or frustrated. Because if I don't figure this out, I'm just gonna be this angry dad walking around, right? I didn't want that. And I wanted to share what I wrote and talk about it with Alex and see if we come to some kind of conclusion
Mhm.
here, right? Okay, so 11:26:23, 5:14 a.m. I always date and time my writings. I don't know why, but I enjoy it. So this is what I wrote. I want to continue exploring the meaning of captain without reading what I wrote last week. So what I mean by that is like I have this ideology that I follow about being a captain, which means like I take care of myself so I can take care of those around me. So I'm just exploring that as I write. I was inspired when I wrote the previous entry because I felt like I saw how I operate and what I am capable of. But I need to consciously think about what I wrote. As the captain of my team, I need to navigate my responses to my crew, particularly my family, in ways that are conducive and effective. So I wrote all of my kids' names and my wife's names, and I put certain emotions and things that they do that essentially bother me. I'm not gonna write out what I wrote about them. Just know that I wrote those kind of things. And after that, I put it's interesting that I wrote all negative emotions. I don't feel bad about them, and I understand why. All of these traits I wrote for each of the girls are things all of these traits I wrote for each of the girls are things I can impulsively react to due to the effect and due to the effect it can have on me. As the captain, I need to realize this. As the captain, I need to realize this so I can respond to it in a proper way. Now, what is the proper way? Question mark. I'm going to use some words that can be used I'm going to use some words that can be used conditionally. So I'm saying like I'm going to find some words that I can like essentially use towards the negative things that I wrote about my kids and my wife. And when I say negative, I didn't write anything like she's a terrible wife or my daughter's a bad kid. I
Mhm.
didn't write anything like that.
Wait, really quick. You said that you wrote those down because they bother you.
Yeah.
So wait, wouldn't they be negative things? Because they bother you?
When I think of negative, when I think of negative, I think of like I would be like Charlotte is a bad person. Like she's just a bad wife. Like
No, you don't have to say them. I'm
No,
more just like,
I'm gonna say some. Okay, so like with my oldest daughter, I put bossy and pouty.
okay.
Like, so it's things like that. Like they just
Okay.
irritate me when she's like that. So it's like things like that. It's
Yeah.
nothing like
No,
super
I
negative.
figured that much.
Yeah. Okay. So I said, well, I'm going to use some words that can be used conditionally. I said nurture, command, guide, teach, demand, excuse. I would say these are the main ones, and you have to identify which one to use in each scenario at hand. I believe my list of pragmatic words are a start to taking grasp of my impulsive reactions to immature emotional stability. So in this, I said I don't feel bad that there are negative emotions, and I want to explain why that is. So most of the time, I feel like we're always trying to figure out what it is that's wrong with us. No, we're always trying to figure out what it is that's wrong with people that make us react a certain way.
Mm-hmm.
And when I wrote that down, I'm like, damn, like the first thing I decide to write down is things that are bad. I don't say things that are good about my wife and my kids. And when sitting with this, I'm like, well, this is a good thing because for me, I'm trying to fix what it is that makes me get off my rocker and try and realizing that it's something in them.
Mm-hmm.
But if I'm the captain of my team, it's my responsibility to, when they give me those kind of reactions and responses, that I meet them where they're at with the right kind of response, right? So I said nurture, command, demand, guide, and excuse. So let's say, for example, my daughter comes up to me and she's pouty over something just like ridiculous in my head. Mind you, she's a 6-year-old kid, so it's something very serious to her. But since I'm a mature man, I'm like, just get over it. Like, it's not that serious. But what I'm really supposed to do is I'm supposed to either guide or I'm supposed to teach or I'm supposed to nurture in that specific scenario. So as the captain, I need to recognize, okay, I am getting triggered by this response from her. So I'm going to use some of these 5 words that I came up with to combat what it is that I'm feeling to actually lead her in the right way.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that for a lot of people, we always have like these responses to things without really understanding how to combat them because we don't understand what is it about the person that even makes us so frustrated and mad and uneasy.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so that's what I wrote about. And I think that it wasn't even a exercise that I did on purpose. It was more something that came to me and I had to sit with that realization of how I think about them before I think about the good things, because I think it's really difficult to actually see the good things first, in my opinion. And it's almost hard to like praise the good things because my background is, we got the flaws were picked out and we were supposed to get better at the flaws from football. And my parents were the same way too. It's like, if we didn't, clean our room a certain way or didn't help around the house or put the groceries away or whatever, that was expressed to us more than the good stuff that we were actually doing. And I don't think that, traumatized me anyway, but I think it did make me kind of cold-hearted in some regard where like I'm focused on the things that need to be done rather than the things that are actually happening that are good. Because I think good is subjective, but I would say bad is
That's
subjective
what I was
too.
gonna say. Yeah,
I mean,
because you said your daughter's bossy, but couldn't she just be confident and assertive?
no.
Why not? According to who?
You said what? Assertive and what?
Confident.
Confident and assertive. I'm thinking of specific scenarios. Yeah, I think what you're saying is probably right. Because confident and assertive and bossy and pouty for a 6-year-old could be the exact same things to them. Right? Like the definition of those, I have the full definition of each of those words, right? Like I understand what those words mean, but she doesn't.
Right.
She's just being confident and assertive. And maybe I'm looking at it as bossy and pouty because
they are hurting you.
Yeah.
Correct.
Yeah. And that's what I thought was so interesting about me writing that stuff. I'm like, why Like, why am I deciding to see this instead of seeing like the other side? And that's why I wrote out those words. Like, hey, I need to find words to like combat this. But what I think I'm learning from talking to you just right now in this 10 minutes we've been talking is like, it's more about how I see it
Yeah.
rather than choosing what it is and trying to like change it because of how it makes me feel. You know what I'm saying?
I mean, I don't blame you. I think like, if you were to like, pray, for example, people tend to pray when things are bad versus when they're good. I think that's pretty normal human behavior to like focus on the bad because you want to feel good.
I don't know what you mean by the prayer thing.
I'm
Tying
saying
into
like
this.
people have a tendency to pray or to ask for help when things are bad or to like you focus on the bad because you want the good, but when it's good, you're fine. Then you don't need to nothing's happening. It's good.
Why do you think that is?
Because I think you have a natural reaction, like a pain reaction in some regard.
Mm-hmm.
So for you, with like some of the things you wrote, they bothered you. That's like it's a pain. It's a pain to you.
Mm-hmm.
Your brain or something is saying like, this is friction. This is inflicting pain on my process, pain on the way I view the world or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
And therefore like it needs to change.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I think it is.
Mm-hmm. No, it's actually good because I think that's also why when I wrote them out, I didn't feel bad about them. I just processed them and realized, okay, well, this is good because I don't want to look at them this way. Well, I don't think initially I was saying I don't want to look at them this way. I was more like, well, if they do this, I'm going to just defeat it with like love and care and like guiding them. You know what I'm saying? But I think there's a level up to this where it's like, nah, just see it for like where they're at, especially my kids, like where they're at and realizing what it is that they're actually trying to do or trying to get done. And then apply those things that I said, like, guide, teach, right? I think that's more so of the answer. I think it's harder with adults, you know what I mean? When I think about me and my wife and I think about the things that like make me act impulsively, sometimes it feels like, she can not do those things. You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
I don't really know if that's true or not. I think it can be true to an extent, but not fully because she has her load of things too that make her react the way that probably bothers me. You know what I'm saying? And same on my side too. Is like, I'm sure there's things that I do where she's like, that just irritates the crap out of me. But there's a reason why I'm doing that really probably has nothing to do with you. It's, it comes from like how I saw things growing up or
Right.
having a bad day that you don't know about or getting some news or seeing something or not having the sleep that I need. And now I'm acting in a way that bothers you. And like, I think a lot of times, like for women that can feel like they're not being, like if I had a bad day at work or got some bad news or didn't get sleep and I don't want to talk, it's like, okay, well, there's something. Like Charlotte used to tell me like, well, did I do something? It's like, no, you didn't do anything.
Yeah.
And even if I just say, no, you didn't do anything, that's not really good enough. Giving her an explanation of why I'm acting this way helps her understand that it's not about her.
Right.
And it's about me. And that's it. Now I'm kind of left with coming up with a solution to, well, what am I going to do now?
Mm-hmm.
Because me kind of being out of whack is affecting those around me. I can either stay in this funk or make a shift to lead well. I don't believe you have to like get up out of that all the time. I feel like sometimes you can not sit in that and do nothing, but I think you can sit in it and process it, i.e. like what I did with writing. I'm sitting and I'm processing it, so therefore I don't do those things. Then I'm having conversations with people that I trust to hopefully get better at it, so that way I'm not sitting in that. And the next time that feeling comes up or that line of things from each person on my team or my family comes up, and I can just respond differently because I'm sitting with it and processing it and not like beating myself up for how I actually feel. Like I can't control that I feel. I can't help that I feel that way. You know what I mean? Like writing those things out, I'm like, oh, this is how I feel. You know what I'm saying? This
What's
is
normal? I mean, again, like I think if your 6-year-old daughter sat down, she probably could write some things about you too.
Yeah.
Like we all do that.
Ooh, yeah. That's
Yeah.
good. Yeah. Go elaborate on that a little bit.
I just think that that's just humans. It's humans clashing with humans. Like,
Hmm.
I bet if she wrote down, she go like, "Dad's bossy. Like,
Yeah.
he tells me I gotta, do
Hmm.
this when I don't want to, or
Hmm.
um, I don't know. I can't like speak to your
Yeah, I know what you mean.
household, so I don't want to like put words into her mouth or yours. But I think like I bet they could all sit down too and have their own lists.
Hmm. It's making me think of, like you saying that makes me think about like, it's almost like I went into like their bodies and like saw them looking at me when I am uneasy.
Mm-hmm.
Like, what are they thinking about me? Especially if I'm not communicating what's actually wrong with me.
Yeah.
Dad is just like that. You know what I mean? Like, that's scary to think about.
Yeah.
And I think that's part of the reason why I did this exercise,
Yeah.
because I want to make sure that I can look myself in the mirror. But I realize like looking at yourself in the mirror isn't always the best thing. If you have a family, it's best to put yourself in their shoes and then look at you from their perspective,
Mm.
because that'll really make you change.
Yeah, that's fair.
Like, that'll really, really make you change. Like, and I remember one time me and Charlotte were going through a really rough time, like 5 years ago. And this is when we were like going to church and stuff. We went to our pastor to like help us. And I remember, I had like this like problem where I was just like get frustrated and like raising my voice and stuff. And my pastor would be like, when you have kids, like, your daughter, like they'll look at you one day and they see you like, raising your voice and getting upset. That's how you grew. We know that's what you see when you grew up. But think about that. Like, she sees you, like you're already, a big male.
Mm-hmm.
You have a deep voice, right? Like you are strong. And even though you don't really mean harm, that sets a precedent about yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And ever since he told me that, I was like, damn, like I guess I never thought of it that way. Because then I thought of myself when I was a kid, and I would look up at my parents when they were fighting, and I think I kind of, one, became accustomed to it, and two, I kind of just built like this hard shell, because that's kind of how everybody was. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Everybody was like, there's like you will argue and yell and whatever, and then like don't talk, and then you come back and talk without really talking about what happened. You kind of just
Right.
forget. And luckily my kids don't live in an environment how I grew up, but a lot of the things that I saw growing up, those are in me. So it's up to me to change those things, and doing stuff like this is what helps me change them. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Yeah, that's fair. And I, again, like for me, I just look at that like I don't think that. So I don't think that matters. Like I think that's a normal thing to do. That what you did, like writing it down. I think for me, the question is like, do you feel like you focus on that a lot?
Focus on what specifically?
Like on what you wrote. Is that what you're like? I know you wrote it, and everyone like. I think if I sat down and wrote, what bothers me about my wife, it's like, yeah, I mean, she could do the same thing probably in 2 seconds or something. But like, do you feel like you focus on that a lot? Like you're focusing on the.
No, because I think when you think about why I wrote that stuff down, it was because I was having a hard time, and I was trying to figure out how to fix it. And I think I basically just wrote down what was bothering me. And I'm okay, well, this is bothering me, so I can't change this stuff about them. So therefore, I'm going to combat it with like me being a good leader, right? I can command, demand, guide, teach, or excuse. Sometimes it's good to just excuse stuff.
Yeah.
Okay, this is just good to excuse. Like,
Yeah.
Charlotte's having a hard day, dog. Ain't no point in talking about this. She's having a hard day. I'm just going to excuse it, man. Whatever.
Yeah.
My daughter's whatever. Like, I'm just going to excuse it.
Yeah.
But there's some things that they do. Okay, I'm gonna guide you with this.
For sure.
There's some things that I'm gonna command, like you cannot do this. There's some things that I will demand, like you absolutely can't do that. Right. So that's why I'm just having that set of words to combat this thing that I'm having a hard time with.
Yeah.
I believe is good.
Yeah.
I mean, you're making me feel better already, because I felt like, maybe I was trying to like brush it off like, oh, I don't really care, but maybe I really do care. You know what I'm saying? That like I felt that way and I didn't think about good things first. Like, is that normal? You know what I'm saying? To like not think about the good things first?
No, again, no, because I think the good things are what you want to get to. So when it's bad, that's when you're like, whoa, I need this to change. I more think if you had an entire journal and that's all you wrote in the journal, major problem, major red alert,
Yeah.
But that's not what you're saying. You said you wrote it down for like one day.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm like, yeah, probably. And I bet if you went to that list, it might be different. I guess it was a month ago, so maybe not, but like March, that entire set of circumstances could be completely different. The way you approach them
Yeah.
is maybe more mature versus, and the way that they've like developed, especially because they're kids. So like they could be way different in 4 or 5 months.
Yeah, and it's all seasonal, right? Like
Right.
that was just a really tough season, and I think the good thing is that I actually went to address it rather than just wallowing in it and just letting my mind kind of just like continue to be negative, because it all started in my mind, and from my mind that's where like the body language and the tone of my voice and whatever starts to just like spread throughout the house and through my work and everything. Like you can tell when I'm having a hard time at work because I'm having like a hard time at home. You know what I'm saying? You could tell right off the bat. And like we play ping pong or something in the office to try to like shake that off.
Yeah.
But I can shake it off for a little bit, but if I don't come home and like do this and address it, it doesn't really matter, because I'm just like running around the problem. Like I'm not really trying to solve
Fair.
the problem.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Right. But I do hear what you're saying about like it's normal. And I think with me being somewhat of somebody who is driven by performance and like a mark of measurement based on my performance, that kind of stuff bothers me because I want to be really good at what I do. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And for that to be my default doesn't feel good entirely. But I don't think I sit in like the not feeling good because I know I'm going to do something about it. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, I don't really know if we have a conclusion to this. Like I think that like writing is a really good exercise, and you know, like my practice for writing was to just follow a prompt to get up in the morning and just get to writing. I've really been working hard on articulating my thoughts, and I saw that exercise and I wanted to try it. And I'm realizing that my default style of writing is writing to become a better man. I really enjoy writing about that because I'm writing about real problems. Like one of my favorite, you know, what would you call Jordan Peterson? Like an influencer or what would you call him?
Yeah, expert. I don't know what the word
whatever.
is. Yeah.
Jordan Peterson, and he talks about, you know, when you write, the first thing that you should write about is a problem. And we can pick many problems in our lives, right? Write a problem, because if you don't write about a problem, then you're writing from a biased position right away. And I really like that idea. So I'm always having like these problems in my life with like my family. But what's the thing about a problem? You want to fix it.
Right.
So I'm going to try to fix the problem because I love my family and I want to be a good dad and I want to be a good husband. So, I mean, if anything to take from this episode is like, this is to try. Like if you're a man, woman, you know, anything, like you can just do this exercise, write about some problems and start to try to address them, because that's how you become a good leader for the people around you. But most importantly for yourself first, because if you're healthy, you're going to be healthy for the people around you. And that's what we're all trying to get to if you really think about it. So I think that's all I got. You got anything?
No, that sounds good.
Okay, good. All right. Well, we will see you guys on the next one.